Hello, how are we? And welcome to the first instalment of the Feed Pod. Been a long time in the making, and I'm really pleased that we're able to get this launched today. And welcome our first guest on, who is none other than Nick Birchall from the Cheese Shop. I've worked with Nick for a very long time. I think we're going into our 5th year now of actually working together. So I kind of know the story, know a lot about it, but I'm sure there's a lot I don't know. But I want you all to know the story about him and how amazing he is. So, Nick, hello.
Hello there. Hello.
Welcome to the Feed Pod.
Welcome. Yeah.
Hello.
Very honoured indeed to be your first guest.
Hello,
My goodness.
everybody.
Were you short of anybody else to ask? No.
I was, yeah.
I thought so. But never mind. Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Feed Pod. Thank you for joining us and thank you for being on. Delighted to have you. As I say, we've worked together for 5 years now. Or going into our 5th year.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know a lot.
You probably know more than I know about myself, actually, but yes.
But do I know everything? And what do we... Wow. Yeah, well, that's
the question.
This is it. And I think the story of how the cheese shop came about and your history, the bits that I do know about, is really interesting. And part of that is when we have events or you have events and you tell that story. That's really engaging. And I've seen that engagement from customers and people that come to your talks and your events that you put on. So I think we need to touch on that and hear about your past.
Okay.
The bits that you want to tell us.
Yeah, of course.
And where the cheese shop came from.
Right. Well, basically, my past history was I was a farmer's son, dairy farmer's son, born in Nantwich, never ever wanted to farm. So I did everything else other than farming. But my grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents and whatever had been cheesemakers, award-winning cheesemakers, always making Cheshire cheese. I grew up with Cheshire cheese on the kitchen table. It was always there, part of everyday's food. And eventually I started to work for a company called Paxton and Whitfield, who were the cheesemongers on Jermyn Street in London. They held a royal warrant for providing the royal household with cheese. And one of my first jobs, I'd like to say as a young teenager, it wasn't. I was way in my 20s, in fact, even 30s. It was to take cheese.
Not that long ago, then.
Not that long ago. Thank you, Ross. I'll pay you later. Was to actually take the cheeses to Buckingham Palace every Monday morning for whatever reception or whatever they had on. Great introduction to cheese from Paxton Whitfield because they were dealing with cheeses from all over the world. They decided they were going to open a branch up in Birmingham in the mailbox and asked would I go and spearhead and launch that and manage that, which we did. And we had a cheese restaurant there, which was really quite out at the time. There was not many around. So all went well. And then I decided that perhaps I should come further north, back towards home, and started working for the cheese shop in Chester, where it's got a really great grounding of British and hard territorial cheese.
That's something I was going to say, the knowledge, all that knowledge, obviously family knowledge, but where did you really hone skills? Cheese Shop Chester?
Cheese Shop Chester, I think, because I had an amazing mentor, Carol Faulkner, she's still with us, God bless her. She's 86, still selling cheese. What she doesn't know about cheese isn't really worth knowing.
Still working in the one in Chester?
Still working in the one in Chester. Only a couple of days a week, but she's still there.
Amazing.
And she was like a second mother to me, and we just hit it off. And we'd go out on cheese buying sprees and go to various cheesemakers, seeing how they operate, what they were producing, learning more and more. And I was absorbing all this, I suppose, knowledge of cheeses. And then when COVID hit, and partner and I, Chris, we'd always had a plan to open a cheese shop. We didn't know quite where or certainly when, but it was always our thought, well, for retirement, we'll open our own cheese shop.
Yeah.
When COVID hit, we were both put onto furlough. We had all this spare time to do
a business plan,
which we did.
Similar story to myself.
And it started from there. So first couple of weeks of furlough, it was beautiful hot summer weather. So like everybody, we all bought bikes.
I loved COVID.
Never used them. I think the first time we went out, Chris threw his over the hedge because the chain came off, and that was the end of that. And then we settled down and we thought, right, we're going to start, getting our business plan together, which we did. We knew exactly what we wanted. We knew the cheeses we wanted. I'd still got a lot of information about the cheesemaker, so I could just ring them up and say, we're going to be opening a cheese shop. Are you going to be able to supply us? Will you supply us? Etc., etc. They all wanted to know where and when. We didn't know where and when at the time.
And I suppose couldn't guarantee that it was going to be a success.
Anything. And then we looked at various properties. We had a bit of a matrix in our search, we thought, well, somewhere where there's a Waitrose or a Marks and Spencer's, because
Right,
we were
okay.
thinking they're the type of people, perhaps who would be
Core demographic that we're aiming
basically.
at. Yeah.
And so we looked at Nutsford, very smart, swanky place. Found a really nice shop in Nutsford, but I don't know, it was one or two issues, and then we were told just before signing the contract that actually you couldn't sell. There was a clause in the contract that you couldn't sell alcohol. That was no use to us whatsoever.
Of course.
We looked at another one in Nutsford, just wrong. It was read brilliantly on the blurb from the estate agents, but when you actually went in it was just wrong shaped shop, different levels of shop floors, small rooms, big rooms. It would have been a nightmare.
Thinking back to that now as well, that commute for you to think about the hours you do in Nantwich now. Commute for you to Nantwich.
Yeah, but commuting, if you're at the work, you've got to travel, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
commute. I mean, I used to commute 3 hours a day. It doesn't matter. We looked at Newport down in Shropshire. Nice, but again, there was just something wrong. And some friends said to me, there's a shop come out in Nantwich. Go and look at it.
Because was it previous you, was it the sports gear?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was wedding dresses, I
wedding
believe.
dresses, then it's been a beauty parlour.
Yeah.
It's been an undertaker's.
Right.
I mean, all sorts of things.
Okay.
And when I was told Nantwich, I went, no, wrong place.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Totally against it.
Yeah.
I said, it's not big enough for a cheese shop.
Wow.
I know Nantwich is the home of cheese.
Yeah.
We've had 2 or 3 cheese shops in its history. None of them have ever done much.
Right,
They've
okay.
sort of closed down after a couple of years. But I thought, well, we'll go and look at it out of kindness. And we went in and just fell in love with the building, fell in love with the fact we got a room upstairs we could use as a tasting room.
Yeah.
We could put a great big glazed chiller at the back of the shop to attract people in so they could see all the cheeses on the shelves, etc. And we looked at it in the August. We signed for it in the August. Bumped into you that very same month.
Yeah, you did,
because you were helping out a business down the road, and you asked us to come along and support, which we did. You offered us goodness knows how many glasses of fizz and beers, which probably lubricated the choice a bit. But hey, there you go.
That, yeah.
So yeah, we looked at this building, we took it.
God, that was how close you were from opening it to working with us was months,
weeks,
yeah, wow.
days, because we signed for it August. The builders moved in September. And we opened the doors 10th of October.
How much synergy is there between our two businesses, really?
A lot,
in that sense? Because then we've grown together, haven't we, over the course of the...
it's great working with you because you just... Yeah, you come up with some wild ideas at times. And I think, oh, Nick.
Well, you said this about TikTok. You said TikTok was a wild idea.
Yes, I did.
And now you're an influencer, a content creator.
Yeah. That's quite sad.
Yeah. It's,
thousands
about
of people.
30
years too old to be an influencer or a content creator.
I don't know about that.
But, everything you said, and I thought, I don't know, but we'll give it a whirl. It's always worked. So, well done
nice.
to you.
Good. Well, that's nice to hear.
You're not having any profit share, by the way.
It's a joy working with you as well. And I think that one of the reasons, obviously, that you're the first guest on the pod, but two, also that bit that you've mentioned about knowledge and your experience, that comes across so much. And whenever I think I've seen you interact with customers or interact with people that come in the shop, it's incredible, really, that Nick, what's this cheese? And you're sort of telling the story and the maker and how it's infused with
People
this.
want to know. People want to know about everything.
It's a real skill, that is. And I think that kind of bit that sits true with me, the people buy from people bit.
Of course,
which is the most age-old cheesy saying in the world. But it's completely true.
Mm-hmm.
But that, I think I mentioned to Tristan today when we were out filming in town, it's the delivering what you say you're going to do. It's if something's good in Nantwich, people get behind it, which is the soundbite there for when we clip this together. The Rolling Pin Bakery, bakehouse over on Welsh Row now, is selling out by midday every day.
Phenomenal.
Because if it's good, people get behind it. And I think when it's not and the service isn't there or maybe the knowledge isn't there...
and it doesn't matter about the cost. Even if things are slightly dearer, if it's good quality and it's made with love and care and attention and the service you get from behind that shop counter is exemplary, people will pay for it.
Yeah.
There's always going to be room for your shoppers going to...
Be a bit more frugal and find alternatives.
Cheaper alternatives.
Yeah.
There's always going to be room for that. But likewise, there's always going to be room for
something a little bit,
it's like, if you had a little corner shop next to Fortnum & Mason's in London, you're going to get people going to go to the little corner shop to get, I don't know
or
what.
Or they can't afford the rent, but
or they're going to get people going to Fortnum & Mason's. You have to, cut your cloth accordingly and also cater to your market. And if your market's there and they want good cheese. They want something. If it's something they're not going to be able to get from their supermarket, no names mentioned. But if they want good cheese, if they want it in good condition, where it's, we actually bring the cheeses on, we mature the cheeses.
Yeah.
So when they come into
Don't always
the
cut
counter,
it straight away, do you?
No.
I
mean, I've got cheese in the maturing room now that I'm not going to cut for 2 or 3 months.
Right.
Some might be 2 or 3 weeks. Some might be cut tomorrow. But I'm not going to cut those cheeses and put them onto the counter until they're at their absolute prime condition.
Yep.
And that's what people want, and they're prepared to pay for it.
Yeah, totally, I agree. A good point to pick up on there when you've mentioned about the last 5 years, and obviously I hate mentioning COVID because it does my absolute head in, that it's all
Best
post
thing that
and
happened
pre.
to us.
Yeah, and do you know
Best
what?
thing
And
that
to me
happened
as
to us.
well, I was deep in that corporate world. In the rat race, obviously, we just had Alfie, who's now 6 in 2 weeks' time, although when this goes out, he'll already be 6. And yeah, exactly that. Taking that leap of faith, and that, as you said about Nantwich, and it maybe, is that right? Sarah, my wife, had sort of drilled it into me, phrase, you should do this on your own, you should do this. And it was imposter syndrome, confidence.
Yeah.
Do I go out there? And here we both are going into our 5th year or deep into our 5th year. And yeah, it's...
I agree. I mean, for us in the cheese shop, after we were open for 2 weeks before the second lockdown.
Really?
And the first day of second lockdown, it was like tumbleweed going past the shop window, and we just thought, oh my God.
To have had a shop at that time must be the scariest thing.
It was horrendous because nobody knew what was going on. We didn't know. Yeah, because we were a food shop, we could stay open. But everybody was frightened of going out. And we just thought, everything we've ploughed into this business, we are going to wave goodbye to in a few days' time. But we were really lucky. We had the click and collect up and running ASAP, which really saved our bacon because people could drive up and collect cheese. They could put their orders through via internet or whatever, drive up, collect. We had they could order online anyway. And one thing that really saved us was we started to do online tasting events.
Yeah, you adapted quite quickly to it.
And the first one we did, I didn't know what to expect.
And something we still do to this day, right?
Yeah.
You're still
doing one tomorrow night.
Yeah, the virtual one, sure.
And they were brilliant because they got our name from Little Nantwich out all over the country.
Yeah.
And we'd have people joining us from Scotland, from South Coast, from Wales, from Norfolk, wherever.
Amazing.
And it got our name out, and people saying, oh, well, we had this cheese on this tasting. It was fantastic. Can we order more? Can we order online? So we were sending out via courier. It's been phenomenal. And we're still doing that.
I mean, and do you know what? And I think, like I say, referring back to that very first starting point, getting that story out there, not a lot of people will know that. They will think that you've rocked up in Nantwich and it's been a success from day one. Never mind that.
It's been hard work.
Yeah, and to that point, where do you think, looking back, as a learning point, I guess the next issue of the Feed Mag touches on learning lessons that we've learned. What mistakes do you think you've made? And I'm sure there are a number, as there are with all business owners. But what's been a glaring mistake, and what do you think a key lesson that you think you might have learned?
I think the biggest mistake I learned was that when you have your own business, you do not switch off from that business. You are working for that business 24 hours a day. Even when you're asleep, you're getting messages, you're getting emails coming through, and you think, oh gosh, here we go. But it's business. You've got to be prepared to put the work in. You've got to be prepared to not take out huge profits and huge salaries.
And pay yourself at all or something.
Pay yourself at all for the first 12 months at least, because you're ploughing everything back in that business. You've got to be prepared to listen, find out what people want. What we noticed, because when we opened the shop, our concentration was mainly on British cheeses, British and cheeses from the United Kingdom. Because people couldn't travel during lockdown, the customer feedback was, can you get us raclette? Can you get us Emmental? All those hard Alpine cheeses that people had when they were on their skiing holidays, they couldn't have because they weren't going abroad.
Right.
And so we quickly adapted our fridges to accommodate more Alpine...
Supply and demand.
more continental cheeses.
Right.
And a couple of the cheese producers out in France were contacting me saying, what on earth are you doing with all this cheese? You're ordering so much. Why? And I said, because
we're selling it.
We're selling it. I need more. Send it more. It's phenomenal.
What do you find some of the big movers are? Obviously, Nantwich Blue, which we know.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, still today, one of our best-selling cheeses has got to be Cheshire cheese. People travel from all over the country to Nantwich as tourists. Have you got Cheshire cheese? Do you sell Cheshire
Did you tell me that we have, and I'm sure one of the events that I've been to when we've been doing the tasting events, which are amazing, by the way. If you've not been to one of the tasting events, you should, because they're brilliant and different themed, aren't we? We have Spanish wines, champagne,
sake,
whiskey, sake. I can't remember whether we do another one back in the year. Sherry, is it?
Sherry, got Sherry in July.
Yeah. So they're amazing. If you've not been to one, go to one. But did you tell me that England or Britain has more cheesemakers than France?
We have more cheesemakers in this country than anywhere else in the world, and we produce far more tonnage of cheese than anywhere else in the world.
Isn't that amazing?
Phenomenal.
I don't think if you're asked that question without the knowledge, I don't think you're saying
no. I think you're probably right, but no, I mean, cheese has been Cheshire cheese is the oldest cheese in recorded history.
Yeah.
End of. You cannot get away from that fact. In recorded history, Cheshire cheese is the oldest.
What would be a close second? Parmesan, maybe?
Second will be Wensleydale.
Right, okay.
So both British cheeses. England loves cheese. This country loves cheese. You can always make a meal out of cheese.
And despite a myth that we'd bust, despite common
cheese is
misconception,
really good for you.
It's good for you.
It contains natural fats. It's good.
High in calcium.
High in calcium. It's full of milk.
Yeah.
High in calcium, whether it be goat's cheese, cow's milk cheese, sheep's milk cheese, buffalo milk cheese. It's a really good food source. And people, yes, we sell vegan cheeses for the vegan market, and they go nicely. They're not huge sellers for us.
Vegans.
For the vegan, no. I mean, everybody's different, and if people want to follow a vegan diet, they can do. I might not agree with it, being a dairy farmer's son, but if they want it, they're fine. So no, cheese is very important, and especially to Nantwich. I mean, the canals were built around Nantwich to actually transport the cheeses. A lot of the railways built around Nantwich to transport the cheeses. Cheese brought so much wealth into Nantwich. Cheese and salt and leather.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how Nantwich made its money.
And this is the one I've always asked you, being the knowledge of Nantwich and all that. Where does dabba come from? Why are people from Nantwich called dabbas?
It's nothing to do with bingo.
Let's bust that myth.
Yeah, basically, when the term dabba, and you've got to be born in Nantwich to become a dabba. You cannot be an honorary dabba.
Right.
You can't just claim to be a dabba.
Does Nantwich Road and Crew count? Or?
No. Nantwich. I am a dabba. I was born in Nantwich. In fact, I was born probably about 50 metres from this building.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
A while ago. Basically, dabba, it comes from the leather industry.
Right. So we're dispelling the myth that it's from salt. So it's not them dabbing the salt.
No, it's nothing to do with salt.
Right, okay.
But basically, when you had the hides from the cattle, you were stretching the hides out and you were dabbing them down with urine.
Right. Lovely.
Yeah. To actually cure the hides.
Okay.
So that's where the term dabba comes from.
Right, if you say so.
Yeah, honestly.
Good. All right. Where are we up to? We've touched on that. So again, I think that piece of information, that knowledge, talking about big movers. We've talked about Nantwich Blue and obviously all the other sort of cheeses there. What future plans? How are we looking currently? What does the next? All right, we're going into year 5. What does the next 3, 6, 12 months look like for the cheese shop?
Next 3 months is Christmas.
And the exciting things that are going on.
Next 3 months is Christmas.
Yeah.
I know I've got to start Christmas ASAP.
Yeah, my word. And every year we say it's bigger and better than the last.
It is, and it's every year you think, have I got enough?
And every year we ask everyone to please send your orders in early. So if you do want a cheese hamper this Christmas, can you send it by August?
Yeah, no, it's not that bad. I think the cut-off date's about the 13th, 14th of December.
But it does, doesn't it? Every year, bigger. And you could double in size over Christmas, couldn't you? And you get more staff in, packing hampers, sending out orders.
That's right. Yeah. I'm in the process of doing Christmas orders now.
Right. And it's thousands of thousands.
Yeah. And you think, oh my goodness, when you see the bottom figure, you're thinking, dear gosh, am I going to sell all this? Every year I'm surprised.
That's why you go on holiday in January.
Yeah. Not because of that, because I'm worn out. I'm mentally and physically worn out.
And do you know what? That's a point that's worth raising, and I should have touched on that earlier when we were talking about the business and paying yourself. I think it's noted in the town and everyone that you are incredibly hardworking. You're one of the first in town. You're always probably one of the last. 2 events a week, 3 events a week do we do?
Well, we do one
or
in-house
you do,
event,
I should say, yeah.
and then I'd probably do 2 or 3 talks a week.
Never mind the fact that you're going to a dinner or an event or WI.
I do a lot of WI talks. And they're really good for us. I mean,
stuff at the museum.
Yeah, the museum. We're doing a cheese and wine tutored cook along in the Cook Along Marquee for Nantwich Food Festival at the end of August. You never know what's going to be around the corner. Case in point, last Friday night, I thought I'd have an early night, perhaps have a glass of wine or something, just chill. It's been a hellishly busy week. We get a phone call at 6 o'clock to say the cheese hasn't been delivered to one of our great customers up in the Scottish borders.
No.
The cheese went out on the Wednesday in ice packs, ready for a wedding on the Saturday.
Oh, no.
Cheese hadn't turned up, so she said, what am I going to do?
The courier not arrived.
Courier arrived, but when he arrived at 6 o'clock, everything was beyond redemption because it had been in the back of a wagon for 72 hours, was too hot, totally unusable. So she said, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I said, first of all, you're not going to panic.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is finish off cashing up in the shop. I'm going to cut more cheese, and I'm going to put that cheese in the back of the car, and I'm going to set out in the next half, 3/4 of an hour, and I shall bring it up to you.
Oh, my word.
So I did.
10-hour round trip or something?
Yeah, just about.
Oh, wow. But
you have to do it.
That
you have to do
service,
it.
that small business,
Yeah.
and you're not getting that from a supermarket or whatever it might be.
A card would say sorry.
Yeah.
And wash the hands of it. So, no, we did it, and we've had more orders from her this week, so yeah.
Amazing. That's, all part of the service. That's and then, sorry, touching on the 3612, 12 months' time.
12 months' time.
What's happening? Where's the big demand coming from? Where's the drive coming from? So obviously we've got
the
bread and butter.
Yeah, the website's been updated and revamped as we speak. We're re-photographing all the cheeses. We're just in the process of getting all the events for next year sort of tied up, getting all the winemakers or wine producers, all the wine talks and the cheese talks, people coming. So we're getting that all sorted out. I do know we've got 2 whiskey events already in the pipeline. We've got a sake event in the pipeline for next year. Our great friend Luis Marcoleta from Spain's coming over again at some point next year to showcase his wines. We had him last week. Phenomenal wines, and we're taking stock of those wines tomorrow. So he's going to come and give another talk. I've got 2 other cheesemakers who want to come and give talks to us, so we're going to be doing that. Yes, we'll do
celebration cakes.
Celebration. I mean, the weddings. We're now taking bookings for 2027 on cheese wedding cakes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So people are now have caught up with the COVID weddings or lack of COVID weddings.
Yeah.
And so now you get
that artificial boom of weddings being delayed and all that kind of stuff.
So people have caught up with that. So we're now concentrating on weddings. Yes, we're still getting orders for this year, but the order book for next year is getting full. The order book for 2027 just starting to, a few entries here, a few entries there, which is great for us. We know what we've got to look forward to. So there's a lot in the pipeline. Regarding the shop, do we open another shop? I would say perhaps not. Never say never.
Maintain the high level of the current shop.
I'm better keeping a high level in that one shop alone.
Yeah, you can't
be in 2 places.
Yeah, exactly.
And people come in to that shop. This sounds boastful.
Yeah, they do. No, they do, and
they do.
That's you remembering their order.
Yeah,
I've seen it firsthand every couple of weeks that I'm in. Mr. So and so, how was that? How's your mum? Did that happen? Well, did you enjoy your holiday?
Yeah,
I see it firsthand.
And if you can reach into that, as soon as they walk in that door, if you can reach out to the fridge or reach into that fridge and pick out the cheese, you know what they're going to want.
Yeah,
they're going to come back.
Yeah, and that's where their expertise and the knowledge comes in that we touched on right at the start. That's. God, can you tell me something that you think I'd like? I've done it. My favourite cheese when I started working with you was melted.
Yeah.
So
we knocked that one out of you pretty quickly, didn't we?
And now even obviously getting the family into it. Sarah didn't really like cheese at all, and Baron and all the rest of it now.
And little Alfie's loving his cheeses.
Yeah, he loves his Rockstar.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah, it is.
It sounds poncy, but it's cheese education as well.
It is.
And with any business, you've got to educate your customer, because sometimes they don't know quite what it is they want.
And I guess that's from the working with the feed and our our passion for what you do and us working together, that's the bit that I really enjoy about working with you. Every week, although we come up with crazy ideas, you've got them as well, in terms of, we've got this Parmesan, it's been aged this long, it's worth this much, we really want to tell this story, or look at these little beauties, do you think these will work well? And that storytelling for content, I think that's why we get such a good response.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
If you're looking at our Facebook, our Instagram, we're now obviously with TikTok, we use LinkedIn, our website, where we were to where we are, shows that
I can't believe it.
It shows
I can't believe it.
And it shows that 4 years of hard work, 5 years of hard work.
Yeah.
It shows where we've got to,
Yeah.
and even so much more we can do.
Oh yeah, the one that surprised me is TikTok. I have to say.
Yeah, because you didn't want to do it.
I didn't want to do it. I didn't understand it basically, but the amount of reaction we've had off TikTok,
And
the amount of likes is phenomenal,
and orders,
and the amount of people coming and saying, "So you're on TikTok?" So even walking down to pick the car up today to come here, somebody stopped me in the street,
Hello,
round
everybody.
the window down. Whistled, hello, sexy. How's your TikTok? I mean, it's like, oh, come on. It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
But brilliant as well.
Yeah.
And I think, the last one that we posted were on 10,000 views and all the rest of it, which, albeit in the TikTok world, someone might be watching this and say, wow, you think you're achieving something, but we're a community-based cheese shop. We're a small-town cheese shop, albeit, yes, we do supply the whole of the country and sometimes all over the world. For what we're achieving, I think, is testament to the hard work, the passion, the dedication, all those things that we've mentioned.
Yeah.
I think it really does come across. So that is a great point to mention. Let's get a couple of things out of the way that I'd like to ask you that are a bit of... so we busted the myth about what myth would you bust. So is cheese good for? Is cheese not good for you?
Yeah, and it is.
And we're saying it is. An unpopular opinion that you might have. So what would be something that you might say that others might consider unpopular at the moment?
I might say.
Yeah. Not to put you on the spot too much, but...
Oh, Lord above.
What's
grabbing my goat?
Yeah, we're grabbing your goat.
I would say car parking charges in Nantwich, killing the high street.
Someone needs to explain to me from the...
And traffic wardens.
Yeah, someone needs to explain to me from the council and whoever's done that why a group of people appointed to help drive business in Nantwich and Crewe, because Crewe's got the same problem.
It's the same all over the country.
I've sat there and said, I know what we should do. We should put charges in the evening and charges on a Sunday.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But that isn't to a view of getting more money for people buying for tickets. They want to hand out more fines.
Yeah,
because they'll know
crazy.
You'll forget and
Yeah,
you'll know
it's
you'll be
crazy.
there in the evening or a Sunday.
You know, you
church on a Sunday.
Yeah,
the car park,
it's disgraceful. Businesses, I can understand perhaps a nominal car parking fee because the car park's got to be maintained.
Yes.
I can understand that. But when you're putting those car parking fees up so much, it's ridiculous. When you're charging people after 6 o'clock to park, I think it's ridiculous.
Restaurants, the bars,
it's killing trade.
Yeah,
people will not open businesses in town if they're thinking, well, actually, if we open a business in town, nobody's going to come because they can't afford to park.
Yeah, imagine.
It's suicide. And then they say, oh, let's revamp, let's relaunch the town. No, you've killed it already.
Yeah.
It's never, you can't, once you've killed a town centre.
It's hard, very
hard to bring back.
No, I agree. I
agree.
agree.
I think that's my big bugbear.
Yeah, I like that. Bugbear for the parking. Yeah. Touching on, obviously, we've talked about retail. We've talked very much about cheese as well. If you had to look at another industry that you could consider needs a bit of a shake-up or something that you'd like to maybe see innovation in, where would you look to something to improve? What would you like to see improved and better? Let's take Nantwich maybe. If we had to welcome more new businesses, which we've got some great ones at the minute, by the way, what would you like to see?
I think hospitality.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying that is I think when you go out to a restaurant or a bar or whatever to eat, and you ask a question to your waiter, waitress, server, whatever you want to call them, what is it? Can you tell me about it? And they don't know.
Yeah.
Little bit of training, just a little bit of training from chef or from the managers or whoever to tell whoever's waiting on that day, our soup of the day is leek and potato.
Yeah.
Whatever. Rather than, I don't know, got to go and ask. For goodness sake, it only takes 5 minutes after
attention to detail.
A little bit of attention to detail. Tell your staff what they're supposed to, what's on the menu.
Yeah.
What to push, what you're trying to sell on. That's a big bugbear. And to be polite to be polite.
Costs nothing.
Costs nothing.
It takes less energy to smile than it does to frown and all the rest
If you
of it.
welcome your customers, no matter what business you've got, whether you've got a pet shop, cheese shop, whatever.
Yeah.
If you welcome whoever comes through that door with, hello there, how are you? Morning. You've got them in.
I find when I go out
Don't ignore people.
when I go out to do something, even if it's going to see you and obviously how close we are and that bit before, there's almost a bit of imposter syndrome or a sinking feeling, only for a split second, and then it's like put game face on, smile, and suddenly the attitude changes. It changes your mindset, changes what you're going in to do, and especially with what we do being so creative. There's a split moment in me that's a bit negative, which I'm sure there is for people working in hospitality or in a cheese shop, that you can be slightly nervous, new customer, I don't know this person.
I understand that.
But swallow and
Just,
yeah,
grow
good.
a pair.
I like that. What would be you consider to be, and again, we'll probably touched on this a little bit, what's a bit of a pet hate in business that you've got at the moment? Obviously, we've touched on car parking and Nantwich car parking, but what's a pet hate that you've got? You probably have to be a bit careful, yeah?
I do. What's my pet hate? I think it is customer service.
Yeah. Not good customer service.
Not good customer service. And
I bet you have you found that? I think we had an issue, didn't we, with someone that didn't want to supply us? Did we have somewhere and that wouldn't supply some cheese to you?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah,
They were the biggest customers.
Yeah.
That was a long time. My big pet hate is when I'm interviewing somebody.
Oh, right, okay.
For a job. And they come in either late.
Not well presented.
Or not well presented. Or don't turn up.
Right, oh, yeah.
That
without
really
letting you know.
rattles my cage. And if, when I'm interviewing them, they call me mate.
I call you mate all the time. Oh, no, I don't, actually. Yeah,
but you're not being interviewed for a job.
Yeah.
When somebody comes in for a job, and we get people all the time wanting to come in for a job, and yes, we are looking for somebody at the moment. If they come in and they've got a baseball cap on back to front, that's a big no-no.
And calls you mate.
Should always take his hat off inside.
Do you know what my dad got into me with school, and touching on that, is my shoes being clean.
Yeah.
And I have a big things with polishing my shoes or clear, no matter what shoes or anything I've got on. But my dad used to tell me about I'd polish my school shoes all the time. Yeah.
Take pride in your appearance. If you're going for an interview for whatever, mug up a little bit on what you're going for and what that business is about.
Yeah.
Take pride in your appearance and don't be late.
Yeah.
And ask questions. Don't just sit there and be dumb. Ask questions. What does the job entail? What are the hours? Never ask about the pay.
No.
Never ask.
How many holidays do I get?
No. Because as soon as they say that, big cross.
There you go. So if you're looking for a job, cheese shop, Nantwich, you're looking.
Just ask about. Tell me what am I expected to do? What can I do? How can I improve myself?
Yeah.
What are the other steps to further my knowledge?
Yeah.
Take a general interest, but do a little bit of homework.
God, the thought of that now, to me, the thought of a job interview seems unbelievable. I think I'm inherently unemployable now after working for them. Could you imagine being employed by someone else?
No, not anymore. No.
When was the last time you were employed by someone else? Was that pre the cheese shop?
It'd be 15 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, 15 years ago.
There we go. Right. I think that's the end of pod number 1.